remember about 2 or 3 days before the Memorial Day weekend, the plant manager and I sitting in his office, and I kept telling him to pinch me because I couldn't believe that this was actually happening.
We found out about the flooding that was going to occur on all our stations, not just Fort Calhoun, but all our power stations and our transmission system through the Corps of Engineers. We had predictions of flows that we could handle. 90,000 cubic feet a second in the Missouri would stay within its banks, really didn't affect anything. And then there was a late spring rain up in the Montana, North Dakota area. We knew we had high snowpack, but that was handled by the Corps. We weren't worried about that. Then in late May, the estimate of the flow rates were really going up. And that's when we really became aware that we had a potentially very high flow rate coming in, and it would produce levels that we needed to protect all the facilities to.
At Nebraska City, the primary levee was our main protection for the site. Initially, we had to understand what primary levee construction was about and how the flood would affect that, and what we needed to do to strengthen that protection. So we teamed up with HDR levee experts and the Corps of Engineers. We had several meetings with them. We put together a flood team here at Nebraska City led by Gary Rule, and he was assisted by some very good people within OPPD. From there we went and said, okay, if the primary levee failed, since this is a different kind of a flood, it's not one that rises and then falls. It's one that's going to stay up for we didn't know how long. And so we borrowed dirt from one of the farms here out on the access road and hauled in quite a few cubic yards and built a secondary berm that would protect the plant and keep it online. That was our main focus, was we got to do whatever it takes to keep Nebraska City 1 and 2 producing power throughout this flooding period, especially with Fort Calhoun down.
And even though we weren't at necessarily our entry point for our procedure, our abnormal operating procedure for flooding, it was clear to us that the Corps of Engineers were not going to reduce the release rates, and we were going to reach that anyway. And so it was a few days before the holiday weekend where we went into full protection mode, and we enacted our plan. We went out and put all the protection in for all the critical infrastructure. That included floodgates, flood plates. We started a sandbagging effort, and that's primarily for secondary protection and some asset protection. And we also then enacted some protection for our switchyard, which we built a berm around. We procured these aqua dams, water-filled dams, that we employed around the plant site itself inside the protected area, in both the administrative building and the training center, to protect the asset. And that was all done within about a 3 or 4 day period. A ton of activity that went on during that period of time. Great and wonderful teamwork by the people of OPPD, station people here at Fort Calhoun, our supplemental employees, and the community. Everybody pulled together to protect the site. And really the easiest part was actually the protection of the critical infrastructure, because that's all proceduralized. The things that have to be done are very focused. It was the protection of the asset where people really dug down deep and really looked at and were creative in the things we needed to do to protect those assets, so when the flood subsided, we were going to have a plant to be able to restart.
I think this is the first time the BCP has been formally activated by OPPD. So it was a good test of the BCP plan and a good test how the T&D area would work and cooperate underneath the BCP plan. As we moved into recovery, we had the BCP at the top, and then we had a BCP flood recovery group led by Tom Larson and Clinton Zifidel, and then I was a member of that BCP group. So that gave us a forum to coordinate with the power plants, and a forum to coordinate with Fort Calhoun, and a forum to coordinate with groups like purchasing and the recovery and the accounting groups to make sure we were all doing things consistently across all the different business units. If you were a support group trying to close out the flood, there's just a huge advantage of trying to get everybody onto the same playing field from day one. And so the BCP offered that, and it was a huge I think, a huge leverage both for moving communications and then helping the flood close out in an orderly manner.
The original unit here at North Omaha Station was being constructed back in 1952, and that was the year that we had the big flood. And there was a lot of forward thinking that I think took place then. The plant was built pretty high in elevation to minimize any future flooding here at North Omaha Station. We were probably a good 5 or 6 feet away from the operating units being affected here at North Omaha Station. Where we were affected was the areas around our main drainage ditch. The areas around that ditch included the lower elevations of the plant access road, the EOF building, and the power park ball fields. Well, I'd like to thank the entire staff here at North Omaha Station. Not only did we do a great job in keeping the units online and operating well, but we were able to be flexible enough in our daily planning to do all this extra flooding work that was required to minimize any impact on North Omaha Station. They all did a great job, and I appreciate their efforts.
On the transmission side, we were flying the lines practically every week to make sure that we're monitoring the situation. And we had a lot of river crossing structures that were in water, some up to 6, 8, 10 feet. Now, some of those structures are designed to be in water, but first, not to that level. Second, not in running water. So it was pretty challenging. We had somewhere between 7 or 10 substations that we needed to make sure they're protected. Somewhere near the Apley airfield. In addition to that substation near Apley, all the substations in the downtown area, we needed to make sure they're protected to ensure power to our customers. So we had many areas that we needed to make sure that the substation and the distribution facilities are protected, and once the flood recedes, we needed to be in a position where we can respond to the customers and put them back as quickly as possible. Obviously, it's going to be very disruptive to the work, to the daily operation of any business. And OPPD is no different. It was very disruptive. It was extremely costly. But I'm very proud, extremely proud of the OPPD team. We had a lot of sacrifices that were made. I mean, employees were incredibly focused on getting the work done and making sure that we protect OPPD's assets. We had some employees work 16-hour days for straight 2-3 weeks. I remember one of the structures that was underwater, one of the guy wires, and this is a wire to stabilize the structure, was loose. We had people go underwater, about 6 feet underwater, and they tried about 3 times, and eventually they fixed it and stabilized the structure. So this is one of many, many stories that people had to come up with very creative ways to make sure that our system is stable and our assets are protected.
I mean, whether it's carrying in individual gas cans to Fort Calhoun to fuel the pumps, everybody had a routine. You pick them up at the end of the walkway and carry them in. Down in Nebraska City, watching people draped with anti-bug netting and bug spray because the bugs are just all over them and they're down trying to fill in sand boils, to the substation people stacking sandbags and fixing things that we need to keep the structures from falling down, out to the rest of the company purchasing and figuring out where stuff is and being very proactive, giving tetanus shots to about 800 of our folks because we're worried about what that river water contains. I mean, the anecdotes, the stories that I visually saw as well as heard were just incredible. And it's the kind of stories you hear about any kind of big struggle like that.
The thing that I will tell you, the thing that I will most remember about this is the teamwork. The fact that that people came together and worked side by side to help protect the facility, not just Fort Calhoun Station, but all the OPPD facilities. Those are the things that I'll remember, and those are the things that I'll convey. That, you know, OPPD is a great place to work, and we have great people. And the fact that they come together when you have an issue like this to ensure that the facilities are protected and we're going to meet the needs of our customers.